Hey everyone, welcome back to the Waste World podcast. My name is Gage Edwards, here again with you to explore innovations, challenges, and sustainability stories that is shaping the waste and recycling industry. Today we're diving into an interesting one, something that you probably haven't thought of before, a waste stream not really talked about, not really explored, at least in my career here at waste360.com, but we're getting into pet products. It's an interesting one today. Each year, an estimated 81 million pounds of dog toys ends up in the U.S. landfills. A staggering number when you consider all the other things we talk about, and we don't talk about this. It's a lot. That is a lot of pounds, a lot of tonnage. So that is, when you include beds, accessories, packaging, even, which of course is a big one, other pet items. When you put all of that together, it climbs to nearly 300 million pounds. 300 million pounds of animal products that we have in and out of our houses every day and don't think of when a dog destroys a toy that is supposed to be indestructible. They're out there. We know they're out there, and I guess we need more indestructible toys. That's kind of where we're getting today. Or safer toys, or waste-efficient toys. Many of those products that do end up in landfills, they are made overseas from cheap mixed materials that can't be recycled, meaning once they're shredded, chewed, worn down, the landfill is their only destination. But one company is working to change all of that. Today on the Waste World podcast, I am talking to West Paw, a Montana-based certified B Corp that's created a circular economy for dog toys through its closed-loop recycling program, Join the Loop. My guest today is the CEO of West Paw, Spencer Williams, who you'll find out more about here in a second. We're going to have a great conversation about everything they do in-house, that they manufacture in-house. They recycle their own products back into new toys and even incorporate ocean-bound plastics into some of their materials. Ocean-bound plastics in Montana. The great oceans of Montana, of course. Spencer's out there doing it. We should all be doing it. It's a great story of American manufacturing, innovation, and environmental responsibility. Plus, we learn a little bit about what's going on in the world of dog toys that, again, not often talked about, but here we are to talk about it. Here we are to shine a light on it and that specific waste stream and how West Paw is keeping those items out of landfills. Enjoy. Joining me today is Spencer Williams, the CEO and founder of West Paw. Under Spencer's leadership, West Paw has become a standout in the pet industry, not only for crafting high-quality, durable dog toys, but for designing a system where their toys never need to become waste. Spencer has built a fully circular process in Montana, creating their products Zogoflex and Seaflex, both designed for endless recyclability. Zogoflex is infinitely recyclable, and Seaflex blends that material with reclaimed ocean-bound plastic, all sourced and reprocessed in-house. West Paw diverts around 100,000 pounds of plastic annually, and Spencer has proven that keeping manufacturing in the U.S. can actually lead to more sustainable, traceable, and safer products. Spencer, welcome to the show. Welcome to Waste World. How are you?
I'm great, Gage. This is awesome. So glad to be with you today.
Yes, it's nice that I'm working on an article right now about a robot dog who may not benefit from your products, but it's interesting that I'm doing two dog-related things at the same time. So it's my world is, in waste and recycling, and they're both in that industry. So it's very...
That's got to be good. I mean, we're working on anything dogs, whether they're animals or they're robots, but waste recycling, I mean, it's all good topics, Gage. This is all good.
Yeah, it definitely fits the bill.
Yeah.
I'd like to start off, Spencer, for people who aren't familiar with you or the work that you're doing with West Paw. Can you give us a quick overview of the company and maybe what makes your approach to pet products different?
Absolutely, Gage. So West Paw started in 1996 with this idea that we could create products that would have a better impact on the planet while keeping, first and foremost, the safety and enjoyment of pets right at the top of the list, right? And we had this idea in 1996 that we could do this manufacturing in Montana. Now, I got to give you a little background. Like, I was born and raised in Montana. My family homesteaded here 5 generations ago. And so my roots ran deep in Montana. This is before Montana was really on much of a radar as it is today. And you think about 1996, I was fresh out of college, and there weren't a lot of career options here. And there also wasn't a lot of focus on making a new company that could focus on domestic manufacturing, let alone in Montana. And I loved that challenge, Gage. I thought, oh my gosh, like this is what I want to do is create manufacturing jobs in my home state with dignity and help us do a better job for pets, people, and the planet. And in the last 30 years now, we've had some great impacts, and the business has grown. We started off with cut and sew, so we were all textile based, and so we had a lot of sewers, and we were sourcing textiles domestically. We were also at that time very involved in cat products. We were sourcing certified organic catnip, and if you can imagine in 1996 getting a head of lettuce in Bozeman that was certified organic, probably not possible. But we were making cat toys with Oregon Tilth certified catnip because we thought it was important for the planet. So we had these roots that go back to 1996 about being really thoughtful about our materials and our product design. And our product lines evolved a lot over the years. And we find ourselves today as a company that mostly focuses on dog products. And we're most well known for our super safe, super durable dog toys that are everything from a frisbee to an enrichment toy that's like a puzzle, and our growing line of treats that are humanely raised, grass-fed, grass-finished, and regenerative beef. So our product line shifted a lot over the years as the market has shifted, but it's been a really great journey, and we've had some really fun impacts on the pet industry in general. And of course, consumers love what we do for them.
Yeah. Do you find that making manufacturing jobs in Montana, you did that because people don't leave Montana? You've been there 5 generations, or at least your family has. It's just like, we're all here. Let's just create something.
Well, it's actually a lot of Montanans leave for a little while, and I left for college. We have one son who's still in Montana, one son who's gone away for college. We hope he'll come back. But, a lot of Montanans go away to find their career or find their family. And so I think the idea of kind of coming back to Montana to the roots really spoke to me. And I think more and more we see Montana as being a place where people now can be really innovative and create their opportunity here, whether that's in manufacturing or tech. There's lots of new opportunities in Montana, which is great. So
Montana is one of the few states I haven't been to. So one day I'll get out there and check it out. But I don't know if I'll stay there permanently, but maybe I'll get to pass through or something.
That'd be awesome.
All right, well, let me ask you, pet toys. Why a focus on animals and pets so much? What was the focus there, or the lead in?
I think that the lead-in for me gives a little bit of the backstory of why sort of manufacturing first. So I grew up on a ranch in Montana, very hands-on. We'd fix things, we'd build things. I love to create and innovate, even as a youngster. Had a first business even in high school with a couple friends. It's just kind of entrepreneurial, but I always liked like hands-on. I think it was how I was raised, and I had this great opportunity in right after college, where I was still in Vermont out east, and I got a job selling institutional research to money managers. And Gage, I'm here to tell you, the stock market and money managers is an important industry, but man, talking money all day and trading literally just information, it kind of shriveled my soul. I wanted to come back to how can we make something tangible? And at the end of the day, the team says I helped create this. That burned deep inside of me. And so when I was thinking about coming back to Montana, I had heard from a friend that there was a sewer who was sewing cat and dog toys and that her business might be for sale. So I contacted the sewer. We worked things out in a matter of weeks. I found myself owning this little cut and sew shop that made toys. And it was perfect because that friend knew I loved dogs. My fiance, now my wife, at that time, we were crazy for our chocolate lab. We also knew that there would be an economic opportunity as the pet industry might continue to grow. And it was this idea of I want to manufacture. And this friend of mine kindly introduced us and this kind of fits the bill, Spencer, you should talk. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity. And so that's how it was started with this manufacturing first mentality, rooted in Montana, love of pets, and an opportunity to present itself.
Okay. I'd like to open this opportunity for you to shame the rest of the pet toy market, because some of those things are just abysmal. I've had dogs in the past and they just tear things apart. Built with cheap materials. They all just go to the landfill anyway. What's up with that? What's going on?
I think that the pet industry has some really great brands and great products in it, but it comes from this background of really cheap product. And I think that is born out of a path over the evolution of the pet industry that took it a little wayward. And if you think about it, where did the pet toy industry start? It started with me as a kid having a stick on the ranch, or you've got a bone from the cattle you might have processed, right? It's stuff that you had right handy. Or maybe somebody was working in the leather trade and they would use the leather that was left over from the belts, right, and the chaps and the clothes to create a toy for a dog. So this idea of creating toys for dogs, I think goes back to the origins of like what's left over that we can use well. And I think that had a real noble beginning. And I think that's where West Paw is coming to with our current product line. But I think in the years after that, it became like this idea of pets, you're not going to afford something that is really success or really thoughtfully made. If you're selling to pets and want to be successful, you got to sell it cheap. And we rejected that notion. We thought that pet parents are going to want high quality and safe products for their pets. And I think we at West Paw were at the beginning of this big change. And we were there in 1996 making a domestic manufactured product. What happened in the rest of the industry? They were outsourcing to cheaper labor markets, cheaper materials overseas. And that quality just went downhill, right? Now we see after 30 years of doing this that there's a great market for really safe, durable toys. And I believe one of the fallouts of all these trade gyrations and trade wars that we find ourselves in the midst of is that people are going to start looking more at like quality versus cheap and low price. They want something that they can buy that'll last. And that's better for the planet and it's better for the pocketbook.
Yeah. And you kind of alluded to something in there too, was like sometimes, or I guess in history, pets have sometimes been like an afterthought. Like, oh, we'll just give them this because it's cheap and left over. But now it's like, well, pet parents are very dedicated individuals. They want to give their pets the best. I know I do. I got a little cat sleeping behind me. I want him to have the best thing in the world, but that's what I'm seeking out. I don't want him to have something that he's going to eat, get sick about,
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that's the thing is you're right. Animals. So I think of it a lot like children's industry.
Mm-hmm.
And where we have gotten inspiration was both from children's industry and the outdoor industry, because both serve as inspiration. And the children in people's lives are putting stuff in their mouth all the time. What do pets do? They put stuff in their mouth all the time, right? Your cat eats all sorts of things, right? So dogs are notoriously destructive, and cats can be too. And so I think we have to be mindful of the materials and the construction that go into these products, because we know that the dogs are going to put them in their mouth. And sometimes they're going to chew a piece off and swallow it. And that can be dangerous, just like if they swallowed a stick. And so you want to think about the safety of that material as it goes through their body, So that's why we start with the health and safety of dogs first. Think about the design that is durable and fun and enriching for the dog, and that we can do something that is made here of really sustainable materials and high quality.
Yep. Incredibly noble. I appreciate that, stance you're coming from. But let's talk about these numbers that are kind of staggering. We alluded to them a little bit at the beginning. 81 million pounds of dog toys and nearly 300 million pounds of pet products end up in U.S. landfills each year. I can't believe that number. That sounds insane to me.
It is.
It's just like it's like, and like I just did a podcast on textiles I was telling you about. Again, just like there's just so much that we produce and they just go to waste. What do you think consumers misunderstand about the waste footprint of pet products? I know what they think about other areas, pet products I don't know very well, but what's your opinion on that?
Well, I want to talk about two things here. I mean, you're spot on, Gage. This 81 million pounds of toys that go into landfills per year from pets. So West Paw wants to come at this first from a durability standpoint, right? Let's recycling, set that aside for a moment. Just durability. If you buy something that lasts, then you have less runs to the landfill with stuff that isn't broken or no longer useful. So durability is the first investment that a consumer can make, whether that's the clothes we wear, the vehicles we choose to purchase, the accessories and toys we buy. That's going to reduce waste. So first and foremost, as consumers should think about this waste. Now, 81 million pounds, to put that in perspective, West Paw's toys average about a half a pound a piece. So you're talking about 150, 160 million toys, if you use our averages, they're in the landfill every year. It's just such waste. We don't need that. So first, if you think about durability, focus there, longevity. Second, can you recycle it? And so when we started our development around our Zogoflex raw material, it's our thermoplastic elastomer that we use to mold most of our toys. The raw material supply chain is domestic. In a family business, we bring that raw material into Bozeman, Montana, where we then put it into our machines and make the mold the toys that we're very famous for. That started out in development in 2003. And I want to bring you back to 2003 because a lot of folks, yourself included, might have been pretty young at that time. We didn't have our first son yet.
I was 30.
And there you go. Right. And so we were way ahead of the curve in 2003. We were thinking, all right, let's invent a material. And I'm not a plastic scientist, right? This is finding people in the world with whom you can share a vision, aligning that vision around like, let's go solve this problem and then go get it. And that's what I did is I found people who helped us solve for this vision. First, the product had to be recyclable. The raw material had to be infinitely recyclable. 2003, people were like, really? Okay. Also, it should be free of the bad stuff that is in plastic. There are things that we finally have mostly seen leave a lot of our consumer grade product, and they are things like BPA, phthalates, latex, right? Heavy metals. If you think about like baby bottles, nipples, and water bottles, all those things that were sort of in the human care product, they had BPA in them back in 2003. It wasn't until like the late 2000s that the water bottle industry really cleaned up their act. We were years ahead of them. So we had this problem and we were solving a big problem. That helped us put our product on a trajectory of positive impact from the beginning. And so we could go to the consumers and to our retailers and say, we have the most durable material. It is FDA compliant. It is free of all this bad stuff. And furthermore, you can recycle the toys. And they're like, mind blow, right? You know? And so we've had this program called Join the Loop for 21 years now, because we want consumers to think, hey, when I'm done with this product and it no longer serves me, let me join that loop of recycling and I'll send it back to West Paw. I'll drop it off at a retailer and let's make some dog toys out of it again.
Now, Spencer, no one listening at home knows this, but you do not have my script in front of you. But my next question is about Join the Loop. So I wanted to talk about your closed loop system. You're like, I don't know if you can see it off the bouncing off my eyes here or what, but all right. So how does Join the Loop work? So let's just dive into that. Yeah. What does it take to turn old toys into new ones over and over again?
Well, a lot of it starts with design thinking at the beginning. If you have a product that has many materials to make it, your recyclability goes way down, right? So let's imagine you've got a toy and it's got rubber wheels and it's got like a children's toy, rubber wheels and it's got a hard body base and metal axles. Like to recycle that thing, you got to take it apart, and that adds a lot of cost. So from a design thinking standpoint, we were like, how do we solve for this right from the get-go? And it was, let's make products out of one material that rules all, and every part is made wholly from that material. And that simplifies our take back and recycling program tremendously, because every toy we get back, we follow a simple 3-step process. We sanitize it, we chip it up into very small parts, and then we put it right back in the machine and make brand new toys. And people are like, well, walk that back for me. Is it really that easy as 3 parts? Well, we have to receive them from the customer or from the retailer. Yeah, there's more parts to it. But the recycling, when you have a single material that is infinitely recyclable, it is pretty easy. But that was from design. So first, how do we clean it and sanitize it, right? There's a wash process that we go through with those products to get all the mud and dog spit and everything else off the parts, which is really important. We don't want contaminants going into our highly technical injection molding machines. We also don't want them going to the consumer, right? So we got to clean it first and sanitize it. Second, when we chip it up in these small little parts, they're like little BB size, and they're about the same size as our raw material. And so they feed really easily into our injection molding presses at that point. Once they're in that injection molding press, there's a long barrel that's heating that plastic up. And think of it like this, maybe like if the mold is like a container that you have to sort of inject this liquid plastic into, what we call Zogoflex, then What is before that mold, in front of that mold, is, think of it as a very long, very large syringe. And it might have, maybe let's say 10 pounds of melted plastic in there before it gets shot into that mold. And what's really cool about that, Gage, is that it's getting heated up to 360 or 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So anything that was left on there that was contaminated is getting like burned off, literally, in that heat and the pressure. So by the time that plastic shoots into the mold again and creates brand new dog toys that we can sell to consumers again, it is very, very, very clean. So that's our 3-step process in a little bit more detail, and we ship it right out to new customers.
Yeah, and that must be important for having this kind of process, especially this closed loop process that you have, because as we've mentioned a little bit, like the tariffs right now are kind of mudding up the waters for a lot of people. So in your mind, even like, for your business and as a business owner, why is it so important for West Paw to own the material supply chain instead of outsourcing to third party?
Oh, great question. I mean, what we were faced with when I started in 1996 was this really important question that I was challenged on by some very thoughtful business leaders. In 1996, Spencer, haven't you heard everybody's outsourcing to, say, China?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're going upstream and against the current, right? Is that the wise way to start a business? And I think that advice was really important for me to hear, but it really fueled a fire in me to do this a different way. Because what we could do by creating our own intellectual property and our own supply chain in the United States is we had control and we had protection around that. And so our intellectual property spans patents, utility patents, trade patents, design patents, but also that supply chain know-how. And we didn't have to give that up to any foreign manufacturer who could, say, use that to make another competitor's part. And so by being vertically integrated as a manufacturer, owning the supply chain, owning the intellectual property allows us to have a lot more resilience as a small business. And that's really important. So there are benefits to the cost, right? The cost of domestic manufacturing, there are benefits to it as well. Another thing, Gage, that might be interesting to you and your listeners is that if you can produce a product near in proximity to your largest market, you're going to have a lot less environmental impact.
Yeah.
When you produce a product at faraway factories and you transport that product across the world to your customer, there's a huge carbon impact there. And so we have chosen to source not only the raw materials, but also our manufactured finished product as close to the customer as possible. That's very intentional on the environmental footprint side of things.
Yeah. I think that's one thing consumers lose focus on is when they even try to be sustainable is when they buy something, the carbon impact can just outweigh the sustainability measures you're taking to not buy a plastic bag somewhere or something. It's just like, but it's about where you source the product from, where it's coming from, where those materials are made. Like there's a lot more that goes into it than just like not getting the water bottle. Like there's just so much more to it. There's so many steps.
There are. And I think that's the thing that consumers like when they want to be more impact driven on social and environmental ways, it's never as binary and simple as we'd like things to be. This world is very rarely a perfectly binary world, right? And so we think, oh my gosh, I'm going to buy this organic product that comes from, pick your country, far, far away. And then you think, what if I went down to my local store and bought local products that may not be organic, but is that better because they were brought from 20 miles away versus 2,000 miles away?
Right.
And so it isn't simple. I think people have to do what feels right for them. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges around this question of how do you be more sustainable? It's not an easy thing, but is important for consumers to think about it with every purchase.
Yeah. Now, we did talk a lot about benefits in there, and I feel like there are a lot because you can own your own supply chain. Everything's local. It's kind of easy to make it ends meet there. Challenges. If someone's trying to do the same thing, what are some challenges maybe you've overcome in this process that you're like, wow, didn't see this coming? Oh, what's this headache today? We all got them.
Yeah. What I think the most important thing about small business and business in general is that a company is nothing more than a group of people who gather together as a team to do something for the customer. And I think that a lot of folks, when they talk about business, they forget that it's people that matter. That's the whole business. Without people, you have nothing. And I think that attracting and educating people to manufacturing is one of the first hurdles a lot of companies come up on when they think, oh my gosh, I'm going to just reshore my manufacturing in the United States or Canada. I'm just going to bring it back. they have to realize they got to build a team who likes that diversity of manufacturer, who love the work that is going to be before them, and build a culture around that. One of the things that our team has been very successful at West Paw is recognizing the diversity of our team that makes West Paw whole. And this is what I love about manufacturing. So it's a challenge, but I'm going to say it like I love this in that manufacturing is one of the most diverse company structures possible. And here's why. If you think about it, you're going to have somebody in manufacturing who's designing a product. You're going to have somebody who's marketing that product. You're going to have somebody who's selling that product. But you're also going to have somebody who's accounting for that product, right? Who's serving the customer. And then you're going to have probably somebody who's engineering either the floor layout or the equipment. You're probably going to have somebody who loves maintenance of machinery. You're probably going to have somebody who loves hand assembly. You're probably going to have somebody who loves to pick and pack orders for the customer. That's the last touch point before it goes out the door. There is so much diversity of roles in manufacturing. This is why I'm so excited about a renaissance of thinking around, hey, we can manufacture more in our North American marketplaces, closer to the customer, and especially when you get younger people involved and like, wow, look at how this is not a gritty, dangerous, dirty job. This is diverse. There's opportunities to grow within. And I think that's one of the greatest strengths of manufacturing. The challenge to your question, Gage, the challenge is that entrepreneurs and business people have got to figure that out. How do you attract and retain great talent to create amazing products at the right price for your customers?
Yeah, and I think you touched on it. I think it's a culture thing because I do feel like we live in a reality where it's going to be these companies are trying to adopt circular systems and requiring different mindsets from leadership to kind of get this done. And I think that becomes a challenge when they see like, the dollars aren't really adding up for me, or like, my heart's really not in it. Can we hire like a third party firm to do this for us? I think you really have to have that culture from top to bottom. And I think you came into the whole situation with the right mindset.
Mhm. Well, I think if you know why you want to start your business or why you want to be a part of business, and if making ultimately the most money possible is the number one goal for somebody, they're going to make very different choices, Gage, than I did. And that's how this world works. Is like there's all sorts of types of businesses. I'm not critical of that approach to business, just like I'm not critical of somebody outsourcing to a factory far, far away. My path was very mission and driven focused. And that creates a culture and that creates a product line and that creates customer loyalty. But that also, to your point, has the cost of building that culture. It also has the cost of being able to afford a facility and afford machinery, all of which I did with conventional bank loans. So I never had investors or anything like that. It was like going into a local banker who I'm super grateful for and saying, here's the business case behind why we want to expand. And that takes risk, a lot of it, right? And so there are some real challenges when you think about if I was just to simply cut a purchase order to a foreign factory to make a product for me, I don't have the risk of a personal guarantee on a loan for a building in which I now employ people who have payroll. So there are real risks. And I think it's important for people to think about how they want to overcome those risks as they create business opportunity.
Well said. Well said. All right. Next phase of West Paw. What are we looking at? Are we looking into any new materials, new recycling capabilities, expanded product lines in the works? What can you give me there?
All right. Well, I think one of the things you mentioned earlier on was our product line Seaflex, which is a version of Zogoflex and used in our toys and accessories. And you might say, like, you're in Montana, like, why ocean-bound plastic? Why is that important? And I think I want to give you a window into our future is that using more recycled plastic in our finished goods will be a future for West Paw. Seaflex is the beginning of that.
Okay.
And what we did with Seaflex is we took 12.5% of the base material and we replaced it with this ocean-bound plastic. And you might be like, what? How does that work? So let me explain ocean-bound plastic.
Sure.
It's kind of an international standard. Within 50 kilometers of the sea, any plastic that is in that region could be in a stream, could be on the shore. 50 kilometers of the sea is going to be ocean-bound, meaning it's going to likely end up in the ocean unless humans pick it up and recycle it. Okay? So we looked at this issue of plastic in our oceans, and it's very difficult, it's costly and dangerous to extract it from the sea. There's important work being done there. I think that's really important. But let's solve the problem at its root cause. Let's stop it from getting in the ocean in the first place. So that's where West Paw decided to apply our supply chain force is let's buy that. And what we did is we created a supply chain to harvest that ocean-bound plastic. And then we figured out this formulation at about 12.5% of that ocean-bound plastic could be mixed in with our Zogoflex, creating a very durable toy. And we use water bowls and accessories and placemats and all that for it as well. How does that help? Well, since launching the Seaflex product line in 2000, since launching the Seaflex product line in 2021, we have consumed about 25,000 pounds of ocean-bound plastic.
Wow.
So how can I help you understand like the impact of that? That's a lot of plastic for sure. But if you think about a water bottle, and a water bottle is really lightweight, but you think about a 16-ounce water bottle, it would be like us getting 800,000 water bottles out of the sea. That's a lot of water bottles.
No kidding.
So what we want to show is that consumers and brands can work together to solve some of our most challenging environmental and social problems if we sell products that consume the waste that we're creating.
Yeah. I think, do you ever tell someone about Seaflex and they're just like, ocean-bound plastic? What ocean is in Montana? Like, what are you talking
That's
about?
it. Totally. Like, you're from Montana. Like, who
Crazy.
thought you should worry about the ocean? But it's a shared resource, right? We all have oceans. Yeah.
And that's a good point to make, that you're like, well, yeah, I'm in Montana with using ocean-bound plastic. What's your excuse? Like, I'm getting that part done. I'm figuring that part out. Like, there's no ocean in Montana, but I'm making that happen. I'm cleaning out water bottles from the ocean. Get on board. So let's talk directly at pet owners now. What would you want, or what role can consumers play when reducing pet product waste? Let's just give them a message, be like, hey, dummy, that tennis ball can be used again. I don't know. Like, what would we tell them?
Right. But let's not do a tennis ball, because that is hard on dogs' teeth.
Yes.
They love it, but it's hard on their teeth. It's got toxic glues. The rubber inside may be harvested in rainforest. Like, you don't know how bad those products can be. So West Paw and others make some really clean, very durable, lovely balls that are just like a tennis ball. And so, you want to think about where the supply of your product comes from, right? And I think, Gage, you and I talked about on the accessory side of the business, like toys and all the accessories that we buy for our pets. Think about durability. Think about the useful life of the product and how far it's traveled to reach you and your lovely dog. I do want to just back up, though, and zoom out, because we've been talking about plastics and this 81 million pounds of waste per year. But do you know that in America, it's right around 40% of our animal proteins in the United States are consumed by our pets?
Okay.
Okay, so just imagine all the animals that are harvested to feed Americans. And about 40% of that protein goes to our pets. So if you think about where consumers can have the biggest impact on the planet, it's how they source the proteins that their animals consume in their house. And I think this is really important, because there's a really good way to solve for this. If you think back 100 years ago, not even that long ago, when Americans harvested an animal, they ate the organ meat, right? You ate most of the animal. Certainly native populations have been eating the whole animal for years, right? We don't do that much anymore. What goes to waste in the United States is a lot of like lung, heart, liver, spleen. And what West Paw has done is looked at that waste stream and thought, why would we grow all these animals that are harvested for the human supply chain and then throw away part of the harvest? This is proteins that the earth has grown. And if we were to use that organ meat for dog treats, what would happen? Well, they're high value. Dogs love organ meat. They're very nutrient dense. And then we could also not only reduce that waste, Gage, but we could think about from whom are we buying those products, and could those animals actually have a positive environmental impact on the planet? And the answer through regenerative agriculture is yes. They can. So we see a whole nother future. I was talking about how you're going to see in our accessories more and more recycled content. Our whole future is also going to grow in using more regenerative animal proteins in treats and foods for pets to help reduce waste and improve the environment at the same time.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the untapped markets when it comes to, like, I guess, food waste in our country that we don't talk about is just the excess stuff before it even becomes food for us. Like, where's it going? Well, they're just throwing it out. But
Exactly.
untapped
Yeah.
market for you. You're right. Like, well, we can use that for animal treats, dog treats, and we keep that out of landfills. And it's purposeful. We're doing this and it's benefiting everybody.
100% Gage. That's exactly right. It benefits everybody. Like there are so many things when we think about this world where we can have a win-win, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I say like the win is certainly the animals are healthier for eating those great nutrient dense animal proteins and the planet is better because we're not throwing these really nutritious cuts away. It's a win-win. And West Paw tries to be a third piece of that win is that we create an economic opportunity. And that's really good too.
That's great. Well,
Yeah.
Spencer, that is the end of my questions. I don't want to leave you without giving you the floor to kind of go over anything we haven't covered so far. So what's on your mind? Anything?
Well, as we come into the holiday season, there tends to be a lot of purchasing.
Sure.
I would just encourage consumers to think about like how much they want to spend and with whom they choose to spend. And if they want to really be sustainable minded with their purchases, we would love to support them at westpaw.com with our toys and our treats. But there are many other great brands in our industry, and they can find those great brands by going to the Pet Sustainability Coalition. It's a nonprofit that Westpaw helped found almost a dozen years ago to bring the pet industry to a more sustainable future. So as they are looking for opportunities, that might be another website to look through the membership list and think, I want to support them with my purchases.
Awesome. Well, I do have more questions. I'm sure the audience is waiting on hearing about your pets. Tell me about, you have a dog situation? What's going on here?
I got Nico here. He's our CMO, the Chief Mutt Officer. Nico's watching over me as I'm doing this for you, Gage. And he's a 10-year-old dog and been a great dog tester. And we also have a very old lady in our house. Our cat is 17 years old, Sasha.
Oh, wow.
And she's doing great. And just our youngest son's best friend, we think. So he's coming back from college for Thanksgiving. Can't wait to get them together again. Pets bring so much joy and connection into a home, and we have benefited from that in our lives. And I think it's really awesome for consumers to have pets because they do bring so much health and wellness, both physical, emotional, and mental. And what I'd say is like, even in the workplace, right? We get to work with pets at West Paw all the time, and people bring their dogs into work, and that's a really cool thing too. So I love having pets around me all the time.
It's like a nice day in Richmond. Sometimes my cats would jump up on my desk and really get in the way of things. But you know what? I'm never mad about it. It's just like, all right, that's what you do. I also have an 18-year-old cat. She's asleep downstairs, so we are, keeping things together. But I've had her since she was born, and we are just like, stuck together. She's everything to me. I don't have any dogs, but I may check out your dog toy line for my mom. She has a pit bull that it's a pit mix, like with a boxer or something. But I may look into something for that for her. But again, westpaw.com. Any other final closing things from you, Spencer?
I just want to thank you, Gage, for creating this podcast, for creating this content for this consumer base. I think it's really important to have the conversations and for consumers to learn, and you're creating that. So I just want to recognize you and thank you for this time together, and most importantly, to thank you for all the content you've created for people.
Oh, of course. Thank you, Spencer. And, every day, like I was telling you, I'm writing about a robot dog. We're talking about recycled dog toys. And like, this is all new stuff for me. So I got to be able to share that with my audience. So I appreciate guests like you coming on to share cool innovations and tell cool stories. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Gage. Have a wonderful day. Happy holidays to you.
You too. Okay, that wraps up this episode of the Waste World Podcast. A huge thank you again to Spencer for being here today and talking with me, joining the show and sharing how West Paw is transforming the pet industry through closed-loop manufacturing, material innovation, and a commitment to American-made sustainability. As always, if you've enjoyed this conversation today, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the Waste World Podcast wherever you listen, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I don't know the other names of the other podcasting services. Those are the two that I'm familiar with, but I know we're in a lot of different places. You can also find more about industry stories and other podcast episodes at waste360.com. Make sure you go there, check us out, check all the news in the waste industry, all the cool work that we're doing over there with more Q&As, more features, more coverage of Archon, which happened when is this coming out? 2 weeks ago at this point. That was a really fun event. We got a lot of good coverage from that, so make sure you check it out. All of that support you guys do at home and all the listens you give us, all the sharing of the episode, all the reviews, the ratings, that helps the show. And helping the show means more of the show and more industry guests that can come on here and explain the cool things they're doing, and we would appreciate that. So make sure you're doing that. So make sure you go to waste360.com. Oh, and nominations for the Waste 360 40 Under 40 Award is now open for this coming year, the 2026 award. So make sure you go to waste360.com, click on the little nominate button on the home page, and nominate somebody for the Waste 360 40 Under 40 Award. It's going to be a good one. Can't wait to see the nominees, and I can't wait to see what is going on in the industry as we close out 2025. We're getting close. We only have a few more episodes of the podcast for the rest of the year. They're good ones. I've already listened to them because I've already recorded them. A little inside baseball. But again, thank you again for listening this week, and I hope to see you next week. And remember, it's our world. It's not wasted.